if somebody is so passionate about Totoro that they yell at me, I'm gonna love them. They're gonna be great in my book.
Well, you're gonna get a lot of that. There's a lot of Totoro
I
fans.
bet. Well, that's one of the notes I actually jotted down while I was watching the movie. I was just, I'll talk about it when we get started.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's start. Hello, hello. How is it going, everybody? This is, as we agreed just now, Little Ghiblis.
Yep.
Better or
We are
worse.
going to be doing a movie club, going through watching all the Ghibli movies and then talking about them.
It
'Cause who doesn't
has
like talking about movies?
it has been maybe 48 hours since we established that we would do this, so we are ready.
Yeah. Real last notice. I'm Harley.
I'm
No,
Scott.
it's fine. Talk over each other. This is how it goes. This is the quality we want.
Can I?
Yeah.
Hello.
Go.
I'm Sky.
And I'm Solomon.
There you go. We are three people who have differing opinions about Ghibli movies, and during a D&D game, we decided, hey, let's make a podcast and talk about them because our opinions are strong.
But not differing enough to the point where we wouldn't talk to each other, so it's nothing that controversial.
Well, we'll see when we get into some other movies. But
Yeah.
so, starting down the Ghibli list, we picked Totoro as the first one because that's kind of generally perceived as the first Ghibli film.
Well, technically not the first. It's just probably the easiest to digest out of all of his movies.
Yeah, but everyone's always, oh, it's the Totoro. It's the one you see the merchandise for. What better one to start with? So, if anyone's actually listening to this, you should probably watch the movie. Pause this, go watch the movie, then come back to the discussion.
Major spoilers for fucking Totoro if you haven't seen it.
And we're not going to guide you through the movie either. We're just going to talk about it. So I guess let's jump right into it. This is a kid's movie, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the only reason I made it through this movie is the nostalgia I hold for it, because I was not feeling it like as soon as I put it in, but once that like opening theme song, the hey, let's go started, I was like, okay, I could probably finish this.
I mean, interesting thing about this movie, Akira Kurosawa put it on his top 100 list of top 100 movies of all time, as well as Roger Ebert, who included it on his list of the great movies.
Didn't they both put it really high up as well?
I'd have to check. I don't think great movies is ranked, but I'd have to check Kurosawa's list.
It's probably one of the few animated to make the list, yeah. I'm going to be honest, I almost fell asleep.
Like I was about to say the same thing.
Okay, so minus when we just watched it for this, when was the last time you guys watched Totoro?
10 years ago?
About 5 years ago, I put it on for the first 15 minutes because it was so famous, and I thought, oh, I have to watch this. It's going to be great. And then I stopped.
And that was the only time you watched it?
Yep, never watched.
Because, like, I watched it a ton when I was, like, 8 or 9. And then I watched it once again, maybe, like, 7 years ago or something.
I actually wore out my VHS of this movie.
This is a movie, really, and I'm not saying kid movies can be bad, and this is probably one of the best kids movies out there, but this is definitely made for kids, and I'm not saying it can't be enjoyed by adults, but if you have seen it as a child, rewatching it as an adult, it kind of loses some stuff there.
Oh,
it
definitely
loses a bit of magic. You said you got hit by the nostalgia. I didn't quite get
let me continue with that thought. I got hit by the nostalgic for the first 30 seconds. And then once that opening theme song ended, I was just done with the movie. It's not good. The sound mixing was mixed in like a closet.
Well, was it 80s style sound mixing?
Oh, it was worse. Like you couldn't hear anything the entire movie. If someone was walking, you could hear the hallway that they recorded those footsteps in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you watched the sub. I watched the Fox dub. Do you know which one you watched, Solomon?
I watched the subbed version, the original.
I wanted to watch the sub. Yeah, I could not find it. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I just ended up with the dub.
Yeah.
Which, funny you mentioned sound, because is it just me, or is like every other line in this movie screamed by someone?
Honestly, that was one of my biggest problems with the sub, is that all the voice actors, none of them committed to the screams.
Oh,
like,
yeah, they commit in the dub.
Yeah,
that's
no,
for sure.
they did go full on.
Like, those kids are loud. I forgot how loud this movie actually is.
It's really loud. For the amount of stuff that doesn't happen, they make up for it with noises.
Yeah, and it's Actually, okay, so I remember when we were originally talking about starting this, I was like, oh man, good luck trying to get through Totoro. It's going to be such a slow kids movie. And it's like, it was actually really fast, wasn't it?
I had a completely different experience than you, I guess.
Well, I personally thought it kind of went through everything really fast. Scenes just started rolling through, it jumped around a lot, and it didn't really take its time. It was calm, but it was fast, if that
I
makes
I
sense.
I can see where you're coming from because the pacing was fast, but the feel
Yeah.
of the movie was sluggish. Because a scene would be happening for like maybe a minute or two, but I would feel like we were there for like 10, 20 minutes because it's just nothing's happening the entire time. They're just going around poking sticks in the dirt. It's like, all right.
What about you, Solon?
I mean, that's kind of what being a child is about, isn't it? Like, you never think of, I mean, in some sense, you think of your life in epic proportions,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
at that age, you don't really, I don't know, you don't really care.
I
Yeah.
get that part, but I don't really want a repeat of my boring ass childhood.
Yeah, there's something there to that. Like, I was looking at the minutes left on the movie when it was playing,
Yeah.
and you don't do that as a kid. You really just kind of write
You
it
know,
out.
I
And freaking children perceive time
yeah,
different
I
than
watched the
us.
shit out of this movie. I have no idea how I did that.
Well, I mean, that's just being a kid. It's like, you get one movie, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, oh, hey, look at this one movie I have. I'm going to watch it 300 times in a row
Yeah,
now.
it was like this and Men in Black for me, which is a very weird combo.
That is such a weird
Yeah.
combo. So this is kind of your half first time watching this then, Solomon, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, gosh, a dozen or so other Ghibli movies, and of course, this is the Ghibli movie that everybody references. So I presumed, that the reason that everybody seemed to like it was because it was the first one they'd seen. They have some kind of nostalgia thing, and it'll actually be kind of mediocre when I finally pull around to it, which is kind of why I was hesitant to watch it to begin with. But I mean, I will admit that that a couple times I'm shopping for a new fountain pen currently, so I did look away for a while, especially during some of the third act.
Hmm.
Honestly, I was really kind of astonished by, I mean, the attitude of kind of how he uses perspective and how he kind of takes these tremendous advantages of, telling a story from a very specific and oftentimes unheard perspective. I mean, just think about how many, movies and manga and anime was made for, Japanese boys, but Japanese girls, not so much, especially kind of the top tier stuff that this is. And I mean, just the beauty of the movie itself. I mean, gosh, probably
Yeah.
half of the movie you could just print out and slap on your wall.
Like, it's
Hmm.
obviously not like the best looking one out of all the Ghibli films, but that color palette and even the art still compared to like other animated
Yeah.
movies of that time is just absolutely
Well,
amazing.
and even the fact that just society as a whole is latched on to the look of Totoro with just one movie, it's just got to say so much because the design is just perfect. Like it just is.
Yeah, so like for us watching it again, it's a bit hard to miss out. Like we miss a bit of like how impactful and sort of
Hmm.
original this movie really is, kind of with the setting and everything, especially for anyone not in Japan and Totoro's design, because like we gotten so used to it.
Hmm.
And I'm just wondering if Solomon, you kind of had a better glimpse into like, oh, this feels like very original or impactful or special in some way.
Yeah, I mean, well, like the cat bus, like it's such kind of an emblematic figure that seeing it for the first time. I mean, I found this to be true of a lot of the movie. It's not quite as like child friendly in some senses. It is, kind of scary, and it does embrace the kind of, the feeling of something in the attic or under the or under the bed, or even the scene where the wind is coming up and it feels like the
Yeah,
house is shaking.
that's what
I mean that
the house is like straight up just falling
I was
apart.
about to talk about that. Yeah.
I mean it feels scary in a sense, and I think that's something you miss about kind of about the movie having being so accustomed to it, that it really does embrace not only the funny parts of child, but also kind of the scary parts. I mean, even something like when May is just sitting on Totoro's chest when they first meet, right? And she's like precariously above his mouth.
Hmm.
And this is like to use Lewis's term, that in a certain sense, Totoro's not a tame lion, that there is something, elemental and kind of nature spirit that is not just, that he isn't just kind of a giant stuffed animal.
Hmm.
So that's actually an interesting thing because, like, this is my first time watching it and, like, trying to pay attention to it. And this is definitely, like, okay, so there's not a lot of subject there in this movie. This movie is very small and kind of just easy, but
Very one note.
it is about, like, childhood and then, like, oh, being afraid of these things and getting past these things. And here's the thing, it's like, you didn't watch it as a kid, Solomon. Sky, you watched it as a kid. Was Totoro creepy to you?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
The thing that was the creepiest to me was actually the least fantastical thing in this movie. It was the fucking goat.
Yeah, so, like, I didn't find Totoro creepy at all, at least from what I remember watching this as a kid. Totoro's creepy in this movie. As a child, yeah, cool. Totoro, yeah, I love him. He's so cool. But then, like, the whole hospital thing, their mother being, like, stuck there for a bit and stuff, that's scary to a kid. That's terrifying. But to an adult, like, oh, well, it's fine. It's just fine. Just wait. Just get more info from the doc. So it's kind of interesting. Like, they threw those two in there. So it's like, yeah, these kids, like, this childhood wonder and this stuff. These kids,
Because we could see a giant ass bear like creature and be like, oh my god, that's a big ass bear. I'm gonna get mauled. But as a kid, you're like, oh, it's fluffy, it's warm, it's nice.
He's cute.
Oh, he gave me a bag of mysterious objects. I'll just take those.
Yeah.
Which Totoro's a drug dealer.
See, that's the being a child is seeing the value in acorns.
I think there's kind of, and I think that's something that Miyazaki generally brings, is this rejection of the kind of skepticism. I mean, I don't know how kind of widespread it is in Japan because that's not really my field of study. But I mean, it feels like, at least in American society, that there's nothing that you can approach kind of without, these layers of, of defensiveness, of cynicism. If you can't approach something as it is, you can only approach it through your kind of hermeneutical lenses. You can only interpret it. And I think that's actually something that I found very refreshing in this movie, is that in some sense, the mysterious and the strange kind of is not inherently evil, but is in fact kind of, I don't know, the
Yeah, it's not an antagonist. There's no antagonist in this movie at all. The only problem or challenge that they face is kind of just overcoming a fear and sadness of their mom in the hospital. And then when the little sister gets lost.
Yeah.
And that happens at, like, the last 25 minutes of the movie.
No, that's definitely probably my favorite aspect about the film is just May having to come to terms that she won't always get what she wants, even though she wants it really bad. It doesn't matter how much she wants it. It'll just have to pan out and it'll work itself out.
Yeah. And the whole thing with, like, like Totoro showing up whenever they're sad and, like, them finding alternatives and, making sure that they can still go out there and be happy and do fun stuff.
Giving them fever dreams, growing a giant tree.
That's a good scene. That's such a good scene.
That was probably the only part of this movie that I still had nostalgia for, was the music. And when that music kicked in during that scene, I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of understanding why I used to watch this a lot as a kid, because that scene was just so freeing, I guess.
That tree growing scene is probably, like, the most Miyazaki scene in this entire movie. It's so his style. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's great.
Especially when he pops out a Beyblade and they ride it.
We're not reviewing this movie. We're just talking about, did you guys like this movie? Because despite the things I'm saying about it and, like, kind of the hang-ups, I still like this movie a lot.
I'll let Saul go first.
I mean, I think it definitely deserves its reputation just because of how successful it is in what it's trying to do. I mean, it's not trying to be, one of those, intergenerational stories of, kind of a family epic. It's not about, a bunch of car chases and
it's very
and explosions. Yeah, it's kind of like Yasujiro Ozu-esque in its kind of willingness to, to look back at the past, to in some way how things used to be, and not only use that as, as a history textbook, but actually use that as a, as a space kind of to think about where we are now, right? I mean, like Floating Weeds. I don't know if either of you have seen it.
I
Um,
I
haven't.
actually have never heard of it.
okay, yeah. I won't go into a big explanation about Ozu now, but
Pull it.
it's about this troupe of kabuki players who've returned to this house or to this village, like 20 years later, and it's revealed that one of the players had a son with one of the women there, and they've been away for a long time. Anyway, so Ozu's style is very kind of notable for how slow it is, how much affection it has for for nature and for kind of unimportant small people. I mean, if no one in this movie means anything in some sense. They could all have dead, and you won't read about it in the newspaper. These are not important people as such, or at least by the standards that we normally judge them.
And there's not a lot of people either.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
very, very small cast of characters.
and I think there's something that would be lost in the movie if there had been more. I think the
Yeah.
sparseness kind of allows for this, the richness and in the discussion of nature, the discussion especially of spirituality, which I found this film to be just flooded by because I didn't read it as as children's fantasies in their imaginations. I read it as kind of a form of awareness, especially in relation to to Shinto, which it's just dripping with, and I'm
Yeah.
certainly not the only one to point that out.
Yeah, it's nice how it's like it's so like not trying to say anything, and it's just kind of giving this like childhood experience that you're able to kind of discern what you want from it,
Hmm.
which sadly leads to that stupid theory everyone's like, oh, he's a god of death and stuff. Now going back to, but
Excuse
did
me?
you like it? Did you like it though? Removing from the fact that it's like a super impactful film that'll be around forever and all that and all that, you on a personal level, did you like it?
Is a difficult question. Don't think I'm gonna watch it constantly. Because I think some
Well, yeah.
movies are actually ruined by watching them constantly. But I do think,
Unless you're a child.
but I used to watch, Star Wars Episode One as a child because that was the only thing around. So, moral of the story: don't trust children and their taste.
Exactly.
Yeah. Children are stupid.
If you do, you end up with like the Trolls movie.
Yeah, the Emoji Movie.
Just bad movies.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I did like it, not quite as much as some of his other movies, but I found it to be a very kind of enjoyable movie that I will keep on my shelf.
Yeah, no, let me clarify mine. I didn't love it. I wasn't like super engrossed into it, and I'm not gonna run out and buy a bunch of Totoro merch, but I did like it. What about you?
I think I'd have to go with I do not personally. I'm not into this movie that much. I can appreciate it for what it is. It is a movie I'll most likely show to my kids someday, but it's nowhere near the top of his work for me.
Mm, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I'm close. I'm close to that, but I had fun. Mostly just because of the tree scene, which is
The
just
tree's
all
really
around.
nice. I feel like I liked the cat bus more than I liked Totoro because the cat bus was like more integrated into the real world by being the wind that people just couldn't
Yeah.
see. Like I just love that. I love that aspect when something fantastical gets kind of
I
a little
yeah,
more
I feel
normalized.
like there's like a silent majority of people who think the cat bus is cooler than Totoro, and they like the cat bus more.
Well, from a design standpoint, the cat bus is a fucking monstrosity. But I like the idea
But
of the cat
how
bus
can
better.
he's cool
He's
though,
got
and
like
he's
a million
original.
legs. I don't want that centipede ass
Oh
getting on
yeah,
me.
can I just point out? So like for the longest time, I thought like, oh, this is a cool little thing about Japanese mythology and children and childhood and fun stuff. Miyazaki invented all these spiritual creatures and the mythos and the folklore. Everything in this movie is just original.
It's
Like
not based off of
it's
any.
not pulling from any like existing things
Well,
other than that spirits exist in a forest and there's legends of cats that shapeshift.
I guess, but wasn't there a scene where the dad takes them back to the tree after May is lost and finds Totoro for the first time, and he's like, "All right, let's thank the tree spirit for saving you." So it feels like it's just an inspired his take on a tree spirit.
Forest spirit. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like Totoro and his design and everything
Well, yeah,
is
of
just
course,
all
that's all.
original.
That's all
And the
original.
cat bus is original. Like I thought the cat bus was pulling from some old mythology of some kind. That's an original like built thing.
You know the
And he makes
old.
it feel so real that like I'm pretty sure most people think that it's just like a thing from Japanese folklore.
I never for a second didn't believe that this was his own design because I haven't seen anything like that before Totoro. It's not like I was alive before Totoro, but that's the only thing I've seen like it is from Totoro.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, there are elements like, the kitsune statues that Mei walks into, and
Yeah.
when they're
Those
in
are
the
real.
rain waiting, there's the statue of Jizo behind them, right? The
Oh yeah,
patron
forgot
uh,
about that.
bodhisattva of children and travelers.
Oh yeah,
So
I
there,
forgot about that. Huh.
I was just like, it's a dog statue.
Darn, I lose a lot of stuff being a dumb, ignorant American watching this.
I lose a lot of stuff because it was subbed and I was looking down at my phone a lot to take notes.
yeah, that'll ruin it for you. But I mean, so much of this movie is visual,
Hmm.
in a sense that not only is that in opposition to kind of the audible parts of it, I think in terms of story as well. In some sense, the story is just as much, in the backgrounds, in the colors, in the mood created, as it is kind of by the characters, and their direct actions. So I think in some sense the mood is as much of the it that this story that this movie is as is the plot of it. I mean, honestly, the plot could be totally irrelevant. Like the mother character could never have been ill with presumably tuberculosis, but
It's even then it's kind of a stretch to say like plot. This is much more of like a character focused
Hmm.
movie.
Well, it's more of just we're taking a slice out of these people's lives and they understand what's happening. So they don't need to give us exposition on what's happening because they're already up to date. We're just viewers for this little section.
Yeah, wasn't it great in Totoro when they turn to the camera and they're like, "And mom's in the
Because
hospital
she
because
has
she has this,"
tuberculosis. We don't
which
know what
makes
that
us
is.
sad and
Yeah.
scared.
I do like that. It just kind of drops you in the middle of this family transition of them moving out to the countryside because the air will be fresher for the mom. And there's not really a scene where the dad's like, "This is why we're doing this." It's just kind of like they're just doing it. And they're just living their lives like normal.
can we talk about the beginning actually? Just
Yeah,
because
that is so unsafe. Just putting your children in the back of a moving van covered all that
I'm
stuff.
surprised
I
they didn't
thought
get
he was a
crushed.
good father figure.
Oh,
That was dangerous.
he's not a good father figure. He let his daughter worry at the end where she was like, "Oh yeah, call me back when you have information." And he just goes to the hospital and hangs out with the mom for like 3 hours.
No, he called her back. That's why she left the house.
Oh, I must have missed
Yeah.
that part.
But no, letting them sit in the back of that moving truck was so. Yeah, but no, the star of the movie. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, I'm just okay. So there's this idea in religious studies and folklore studies called the liminal. It's this point kind of transition of movement between one thing and another thing. Doors are the classic example of liminality. And I'm thinking about this, and then the opening of Spirited Away, about this transition of moving between two different kind of areas. And I would like to mention that both of these movies feature, young women, obviously. They feature movement from the city to the country, both areas that the children are unfamiliar with. And both of them move
Yeah,
from presumably.
I picked that up. There's definitely you can see the
There's a
inspiration
lot of
for
moving in Miyazaki
Spirited
movies.
Away.
And I mean, both of them involve this kind of journey into this, fantastical arena, right? Where, the kami are not just kind of, stories, but are actually actually there. They're actually real, right? I mean, even the grandmother talks about the soot spreaders, I think she calls them, or at least the dub renders them, or the subtitles.
They're literally just called dust
Um,
bunnies in the sub.
Oh,
Yeah, they have no
the
creative name.
soot sprites.
Yeah, no, it's way better the English sub.
I think they have like 7 different names.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, because there's something that they do very successfully, which is this kind of mythology, right? Because I mean, a lot of children. I mean, it's been largely discredited, these days. But this idea that religion is this kind of explanation for how things work. Why is there lightning? Oh well, Zeus is throwing down his kind of what exactly
There's
he throws down, but
Zeus is a little pissy
lightning
today.
bolt.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of that religion is an explanation for natural events. But I think that does work kind of in an interesting way for the children, right? Because the soot spreaders have no actual like they don't do anything. They're just kind of there in the background.
They
And
make
but they
they
kind of
make soot.
yeah, exactly. They serve as an explanation for um
A dirty
for
house.
why yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the idea, right, isn't theirs. That's the important thing because there's this interesting correlation between things in the real world. I'm using air quotations, which is dumb on a voice recording, but
I can
um,
hear your fingers going up and down.
Yeah, no, I have a mental image.
I would hope so. I try to get my intonation correct, but the real world and the spirit world, right? I mean, the cat bus, the cat bus comes in directly after the real bus goes and leaves. What else? There was also, I mean, Totoro comes in some sense from the book, right? That May reads. And there's some interesting connection kind of between that a lot of these characters are both in the real world and outside of it in some sense that there's no like explicit explanation of whether these are real or not, right? I mean, the adults can't see them, but that doesn't really imply that they're not real. And I think the movie goes to a great length just to say that.
A really good example of that is the tree growing scene,
Hmm.
because they go on that, they grow the tree, they fly around with Totoro, but then they wake back up in bed, and they're like, oh, it was a dream. Well, then they run outside, and then it's like, oh, actually, surprise, those plants have actually sprouted, and so they go around, start doing the dream and stuff. So I mean, if you really want to like, oh, we're gonna pull out our magnifying glass, we're gonna analyze this scene, they both essentially had the same dream, if it was a dream, or experience. There's just no giant trees, just small saplings.
Hmm.
Very much kind of as a result of the 17th and 18th centuries, at least in the West, we've kind of come to this binary that that things are either real or they're not real. Things are either physical or they're supernatural. And we like to kind of have things in two separate and opposing camps. And I think Miyazaki is because I don't know how much the American defeat of Japan in World War II and their kind of imposition of the American style onto Japan goes in the spiritual and the religious elements. Whether kind of the desacralization that was happening in the 19th century or the 20th century in the West was also being imposed onto Japan. But in some sense, this movie kind of struck me as a resacralization. That Miyazaki is kind of actively trying to point out the supernatural in everyday life and reintegrate these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I was looking around for it, and I'm sure I could find some semblance of an answer if I looked really hard, but I didn't see any distinct like Miyazaki being like, I made this movie because blank. Anything going into it is mostly just him talking about like the characters themselves and like the relations he has
Hmm.
to them and the personal story it is, not so much like what or why this movie was made.
Yeah. Well,
So it is really just open to interpretation.
yeah,
It's so open ended because of the movie it is. You
definitely.
just have to kind of assume.
And I can't like 100% say what he actually meant with his message, but I think the simplicity of it is just to go back to how as a kid you don't understand how anything works. You don't understand what a dust bunny is, why there's a piece of dust in the corner. You don't know how trees grow. You don't know how all these weird things happen in the world. So you'll kind of visualize it in your head as, oh, it's the tree spirit growing the trees, or else it doesn't sprout because I don't understand science, or I don't know why dust collects. So I'm gonna think that they're little dust bunnies. So I feel like it's more of just a nice version of what we all experience as a kid, which is just I don't understand what's happening, but I think it's
I
this
mean,
magic. I think it's magic, you know?
it's pretty universal. You could be like, "Hey, did you forget what it's like to be a kid? Well, here you go. It's
Yeah,
like this," and just show them Totoro.
yeah,
They'll get an idea.
pretty much. Because
Right.
like everybody's had that time in their life where I don't know what's happening, but it's magic.
What's like one thing you thought this movie did really well? Like sort of just like a single thing that did really well. Because I want to just give some credit to that sandal scene.
Oh my
is
god, yeah.
so good because despite the fact that I know what happens in this movie, I've seen this movie before, I still couldn't remember if it was the same sandal or not.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, and just the way he tells her, it's just like it's just so out of left field. It's like, oh my god, is she dead? It's
Yeah.
like
No, it
I've
didn't.
seen this movie a bunch of times, but I was still like worried.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen a bunch and I still got that feeling
Hmm.
cuz it's a very real feeling that everyone has kind of gone through at some point,
Hmm.
and you cannot remember what the sandal looked like. I brought up two pictures and put them next to each other, and they are two different sandals.
Hmm.
Like if you saw them side by side, you would totally be like, "Oh yeah, that's not the
Yeah, like
sandal."
one's yellow, the other one's like bright orange. But
Like one's orange,
mhm.
one's pink. They have different types of straps on them. One has a heart, another does it. But still, you still can't be sure
Hmm.
because you're relying on your memory. It's such a good scene. I'm curious what Solomon thought of that scene.
It really does create a sense of, and I think it's a lot to do with the commitment shown of, of the adults. I mean, especially the scene where Sasuke is, or Satsuki is
I was like,
looking at the
Sasuke.
sandal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they're like all staying around. That moment, because it's not instant. They let it hang
No.
when she's looking at that sandal.
Yep. It does feel well. I mean, because if you think about it this way, that most of the movie is following May. I mean, it's following them when they're together, but then in general, when it drifts off, it's following May until kind of that turn when May goes off by herself, and then it's
Yeah,
entirely with Satsuki.
and they don't show her
And
after that.
Yeah.
mm,
Like when she's gone, they just stop, and so they never say, "Oh, we think that she drowned." They say we think she's lost, but they never say, "Oh, we think she drowned. This might be her sandal."
Hmm.
And not saying anything makes your head start doing that thing
Hmm.
where it
yeah,
starts thinking of the worst case scenario kind of stuff. And this movie came out with Grave of the Fireflies, so you're thinking, oh boy, I
Oh
thought this was
boy.
a happy movie.
mhm,
Well, they had to look. They had to get a little bit of sadness in there. So it's just too happy up to that point.
Well, I mean, that's the only point of conflict in the whole
If
movie, and it's at
if
the
even a
last 20
conflict, because it's
minutes.
resolved in like 30 seconds.
So yeah, I just wanted to like, because I figured we'd go into things that were wrong with the movie and we didn't like. But first, let's just sing a little bit of praise. I think the sandal is a really good thing.
Hmm.
What's one thing you really liked about this movie, Solomon? What
um,
little golden tiblet did you find in it?
so, of all of the things that I adored, I think the backdrops were like my favorite thing about this movie. I've talked a lot about how much I enjoy the visuals, but in particular, I'm trying to think of when exactly it is, but it's a scene. It's a pan from kind of looking more or less upward at the sky, and it slowly goes down over this this huge forest as the two girls are entering the.
When they're going to the tree?
Think so. That sounds right.
Yeah,
Um,
when they're like going to the camper
Hmm.
tree. Because I was just thinking of that, like a similar shot when you're talking about backdrops.
I mean, they're just kind of so. I mean, like the blue in a Studio Ghibli sky is just, it feels more real than reality is.
Like
Um,
removing the fact that it's a movie, it's just good art.
oh,
It's just straight
incredible.
up really good art. But when you throw it art into a movie, it becomes better.
Hmm.
Mm,
Well, there are cases.
I no, emoji movie is not art.
I never said it was.
I don't care how pretty its backdrops would be.
Backdrops.
Nothing qualifies that as art.
you
It's
telling me
it's
that
not.
if I make a large metal balloon dog, that's not art? Is that what you're telling me, Harley?
Oh, okay,
Wait.
let's not get started on that guy because we're gonna be here for another podcast, and that one's gonna go for
Are you
hours.
trying to say that the fart emoji next to the elephant emoji wasn't a funny joke?
Oh, it's the funniest. The joke. Kids love that, right?
Oh
No.
yeah,
Yeah,
always.
kids love that.
Kids cried.
So what about you, Sky?
Uh,
Little golden nugget that you like the most?
well, there's definitely a few little nuggets in this movie, but the one that comes to mind the most is just the chemistry between the two sisters. I
Yeah.
just really bought it. like they know each other's boundaries, but they're always pushing it, and they're just really cute
Yeah,
together, and they're just
like they're real. Like
mhm.
it's very real.
Yeah, like it reminded me a lot of when I was growing up with my little sister. Like it's just we're constantly trying to one up the other, or we're
Oh
just saying
yeah.
like, "Hey, wait your turn. Mom's brushing my hair right now." You know, it's just like you're constantly stepping on each other's throats, but you understand on an unspoken level that you still love each other. Like I just thought that chemistry was just really nailed in this movie.
Yeah. I like how they made May not like the perfect little girl. She's
Oh, she's the
crappy.
worst. But
Yeah.
I feel like,
But that's what makes
oh
her
man,
great.
I haven't talked about my favorite thing about the movie. I feel like they really make up for May being a little shithead by just beating the shit out of her during the movie. She falls down like 5 separate times in this movie.
It's it's just enough a little bit of
Hmm.
small kid falls down. It's funny slapstick.
Yeah, like she gets so injured in this movie. Like one of the notes I wrote down was May can take a hit.
Oh yeah, no. Small kids like that, yeah, they go tumbling down and they just get up, keep
Yeah,
going.
she just keeps going. She's got to get that corn to her
It's
mom.
it's yeah, especially when carrying corn.
Hmm.
When children carry corn, they are extra durable.
Corn's like half her body size. I mean, like
Well,
that is a
that's where all the
massive
cushioning went. She just held it in front of her face, and it was good.
Oh yeah, no, that mom's gonna get that corn and it's just gonna be
It's
all
gonna be
like smushed up.
broken. There's gonna be dirt in it. Real ripe.
We actually all we essentially just made a movie with our picks for golden nuggets. I picked like a scene. Solomon picked art, and then you picked character.
Yeah. We work together. Perfect.
Yay! We're a good trio. This podcast will do well.
Yeah, well. Saul's the guy who
Uh,
actually knows stuff. I'm just like, I like this, I guess. And then you're like, this scene.
guys, but the sandal though. Yeah, we did a gold nugget. So what's your guys' bad nugget from this movie?
I feel like it doesn't say anything. I feel like it's too simplistic to really carry a message for because it's great for when you're a kid, but right now when I was watching it, I felt like I wasn't getting anything out of it.
So your one problem is that it's a kids movie, but
No,
at the same
because
time, it's great for
there
being
can
a kids movie.
no like there can be great kids movies that are like a coming of age story or they'll teach a lesson, but this one just I feel like you don't really learn anything at the end.
Well,
It
so
just
what?
kind of happens.
Then my question to put you on the spot then is like, what would you add to add a little bit more to this then?
I would add a scene where Sasuke has like talks to her mother and her mother kind of explains the severity of what could happen. Because it's just kind of like implied, oh, maybe she's really sick or maybe she's not really sick. And then Sasuke's just she doesn't really understand what's happening, but she's just kind of going with it. I feel like if there was a scene where her mom's like, "Hey, if I go, you're the woman of the house. You got to take care of your little sister. You got to raise her right. You got to do right by me." I feel like if there was a scene where Sasuke was let into the what's the word? If she was kind of let into the loop a little bit more, we could have kind of had that moment where she has to grow up a little bit and kind of take care of herself and her sister.
I feel like we kind of got that a little bit through the movie. Just a little bit through the movie with her
When?
doing like chores around the
Well,
houses and
chores
like
around
when
the
she made
house,
the
but like
lunches and stuff.
she's even talking to May. She's like, "This is just temporary," and May's like, "Yeah, this is just temporary." And that's like the end of the movie is that May doesn't want it to go on a little longer, but Sasuke's like, "It'll be over," and they just kind of leave it at that. Sasuke doesn't have to like bring May up to speed of, "Hey, we have no idea when this is going to end, or even if it is going to end." It's just kind of like it's going to be good, and then the movie ends. You know.
Thoughts, Solomon?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that if you were to add anything to this movie, that it would be lesser. And I think actually there's some element of perfection involved in how, in how kind of sparse it is and how it doesn't really have a message. It doesn't really have a, kind of I mean, it has themes, but it doesn't really have anything kind of relevant in that sense. And I think that irrelevance is actually one of its strongest points.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, it's in, well, there's a tier of movie that no longer, it's no longer relevant. Oh, I think, the scenes are too short, or it's just so perfect that you only can agree or disagree with it on what you think it's going for. And I think I like what it's going for. I like that kind of that ability to kind of to dwell in one place without really needing a reason to be there. It's just kind of there. But I
Yeah,
can definitely see how, how you would want something more from it.
definitely. Because like I said earlier, I do love the movie's approach to just kind of like this is a time in the family's life. Since I'm so invested in so many different mediums and medias of like storytelling,
For you as an
for
adult.
me as an adult, I'm like, so why are we dropped in this specific part of their lives? Why not in a part where something actually happens? Because I get the whole slice of life kind of aspect and how it can just be living vicariously, I guess is the word, which probably isn't. I'm just asking the question, well, why am I seeing this? Is this a really important time in their life? Because the only really important thing that happens is May runs off for a few hours. And that's not really going to be a big life changing thing for this family.
Well, I guess I mean it is the move and everything, and you could say this is like the start of Totoro
Hmm.
for them. It's
Yeah.
not particularly an end of Totoro.
Well,
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of loops back on something I want to say. It's like if this movie was made sort of like today, not by Studio Ghibli, two things that stand out in my mind is one, once May goes missing, before they actually reveal that the sandal's not her, they would have cheaped out and shown a shot of her being okay.
no, I feel like they would
Because
have
I
done the same thing.
think like
If
I feel like modern movies do that a lot though.
well, you're just not watching good modern movies then.
Probably
Yeah.
that,
Because
and like Totoro would have said goodbye to them at the end. Like the end would have gone a little bit longer. Oh, hey, look, mom's coming back from the hospital, and then Totoro would like said Mary Poppins style goodbye to them, flown off kind of style.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
don't
left
think
very open
Totoro
ended.
talks. Did we watch two different movies?
No, he talks. He talks. He yells very loudly, and then I have to go turn down the speakers on my
Well,
TV.
that was another thing about the Japanese dub. He doesn't yell. Like even the cat noise. Like I'm sure in the one you listen to, like it's a really cool like grumbling like, when it first talks, and this one's like meow. It's like
Ooh.
it's just a
Oh,
dude in a closet making a cat noise, and then for Totoro, it's just a guy going and it's pitched down.
Was that the
Yeah,
oh,
original dub?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wikipedia does not. Apparently, they just don't know who the voice actor for that was. It's just
There,
unknown.
it has to be just some random artist or person who was working on the movie. They're like, yeah, I can be Totoro, and they just recorded like five things and then used it for the entire movie.
they didn't they do that for? I don't know. I might be thinking of a different movie, but there's a different movie where like they need animal sounds for things, and they got people who were just animators and stuff to do them.
I know what you're talking about. I cannot think of it right now though.
Exactly. Yeah. Solomon, one you had a gold nugget. What's a bad nugget?
Yeah, so something I noticed maybe, two-thirds into it, was that it didn't, the world in some sense, at least the spiritual world, didn't really feel integrated or realized.
Hmm.
In some sense, most of his other movies have this kind of spiritual ecology going on, where, Spirited Away is the perfect example. Every spirit does something, every spirit, has some relation to every other one. You can, there's that sensation that before the movie starts and after the movie ends, it continues. And there probably could be another movie, and it wouldn't feel, like a cop out to say that, No Face is going to have, more, character development, and that he had kind of a past even before, he's introduced. I didn't
Hmm.
feel it in this one. Like tangentially, the soot spreaders and and Totoro and the cat bus, they kind of all like maybe they know each other exists, but it didn't feel realized to
Yeah,
me in the way that it did in the other movies.
going back, like I was thinking back to our conversation about Mononoke the other night and how we were talking about just like it just feels like a very well lived in world that would work for this universe. But then you go over to Totoro and it's like there's these things, but they don't really affect the world around them. They're just kind of there.
Mm.
Well, they might or they might not. It's that kind of thing.
They're well, they're just
They're not
they're a coping
super
mechanism from you.
grounded as like other like because like forest and spirit and all that and life and all that always comes up in his movies. They're not. Totoro isn't like super grounded
Hmm.
in this movie as like anything.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I kind of agreed with Solomon in that regard, but I'm only a little. I'm gonna give you a little.
Only a little bit.
I can't. I mean, I'm kind of okay with it. I think it lends itself to the movie in a way,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to realize that I tend to kind of have a different opinion than you two. So
Well, no, that's good. If we all had the same opinion, this would be the most boring conversation possible.
yeah, no, it's great. It's just I have to hold up. I have to hold up two shields. It's two against one. But
We're not ganging up
I
on you.
agree.
We don't hate the movie.
yeah, I know. I mean, okay,
And
so
I
yeah, we're
actually
picking
feel like
out
Solomon likes a
things
lot
we
of
don't
movies.
like, but still, this is an amazing movie.
Yeah, no, it was delightful, and I think it was, it's better than anything. I mean, it's better than that period of Disney, right? It's better than The
Yeah.
Lion King. It's better than Little Mermaid.
I wouldn't go so as far to say it's better than Lion King, but little.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
like I watched part of The Little Mermaid recently. It's just like it's not bad, but
It's just
it's
not.
very underwhelming in response to at least kind of in the mood of it,
Yeah.
and then coming to this, it feels
I
very.
definitely-
I mean, there's no. Mm-hmm.
No,
I've never seen it.
you never seen Little Mermaid?
I've never seen. Little
Okay,
Mermaid.
well,
No,
the
we
thing-
can't do another podcast series
No,
of
we're
all
not-
of the Disney movies,
that would
Harley.
take way too long.
No,
okay.
because every movie is a Disney movie.
All you need to know is that Little Mermaid is the most non-personality you could have for like a mermaid movie. It's just
Well, I
straightforward.
know that the plot is that she sees a guy and then sacrifices everything, abandons her family to go be with him.
Except
that's-
the Hans
that's it.
Christian Andersen version, she actually dies, in which it makes much more
She
sense.
does. She like dries up on the shore because Ursula
foam.
changes her back into a fish, and then she can't get to the water, so she just watches Prince Charming ride off in a boat with his new wife and dies.
Is that like the Canadian version of Hans
That's like
Christian
the
Andersen?
grim version or some shit. But it's
Okay,
just,
yeah.
it's so funny and sad at the same time.
She turns into sea foam in the Christian Andersen version.
Oh, that's worse.
That's bad,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know.
But I definitely
Maybe
agree
not
with you
Christian.
with Little Mermaid because this has way more of a personality to it. Like you can just look at Totoro, any frame of it, you'll recognize that's Totoro. You can look at any frame of Little Mermaid, you'll probably be like, oh, it's a Disney movie. It's just it's
Or
very
it's an underwater movie.
yeah, it's a very standard, straightforward Disney movie. Lion King, on the other hand, I can't agree with you there. I like that movie too much.
I
Yeah.
I think Lion King and Totoro are probably equal with me,
Mm.
but I'm kind of almost always down to watch The Lion King.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm always down to watch Totoro.
that same for me because it's like a
But that's unfair. That's not a fair
Well,
because
I f-
most of it is the songs in
I f-
in Lion
well, I
King.
feel like it is fair because as an adult, I can see myself watching Lion King more than I could be watching Totoro, which in my eyes means it's a more worthwhile movie. Doesn't mean Totoro is a bad film. It just means I don't personally want to invest that much
Well-
time into it, And if I can do that with Lion King, then it's
I'm
more of a
gonna
worthwhile
take
movie.
a guess that some of the best bits in The Lion King are the songs, and as you just stated in this podcast, we have proof. Your most nostalgic bits in this were during the two songs with the tree and the intro.
No, I am very song based, but I just also really like Lion King's storyline. I think it's very
Yeah.
solid, and it's also another good movie to watch as a kid because it kind of teaches you about failure and how to move on past it, and I think that's great.
and don't.
Well, it's also
Trust your
just
uncle.
Hamlet.
Yeah, it's just Hamlet, but
It's just
it's a nicer kid version of Hamlet with a lot less throat slitting.
Yes, he doesn't accidentally poison his mother. Yes.
Yeah,
and
so
murder his whole
it's a-
family.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies that is great to watch as a kid.
That's
and as an
what the
adult.
modern, the I'm using my air quotations for this now. Live action Lion King movie should have been.
Don't even
Should
get
have
me
just been
started on that.
straight 1-to-1 of Hamlet.
Just people.
Same
man.
characters,
Nope.
same setting.
They should have gone.
Just
They should have gone with furries instead
Great
of like
Hamlet.
CGI characters. I would have watched that.
they should have gone cats.
Yeah. Oh no, not
Yeah.
that. That's too much. Like people just in actual costumes.
You mean fursuiters doing Hamlet?
Yes.
I mean, I would give good money to see that.
I
I
would
will.
I would watch the shit out of that. That's why I didn't even
That
see the
sounds,
new one because
yeah.
it's just it's a CGI movie. I don't care.
Of course, I'm guessing it's not too great because
Oh
they'd be wearing the heads, and
yeah.
then as they get up there, and who's there? Oh, it's there.
I just want to see a dude wearing a big ass Zazu head and going around like Saya, and it's like bobbing around.
Oh, that could be good. Apparently, the play actually Lion King on stage is actually really good. So
I've never seen it. I heard
I
the
haven't either.
the
but
Shrek one was pretty good too. Apparently,
That one's on Netflix. You could watch that one if you
I've
wanted.
seen it and I've never been tempted to watch it.
It is what it
It
is.
exists.
Yeah, yeah. The reason I came up with this because one of the biggest talking point I want to talk about. I want us to super analyze this scene. Okay, I want us to go hard.
Is it the flip flop scene?
No,
Okay.
because I love that scene. This is a scene I don't understand, and I can't quite figure out exactly why it's in this movie.
Okay.
They got the telegram. They're running to a house with a phone.
Mm-hmm.
May gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
They get there. They get to the phone.
Mm-hmm.
May's running around.
Mm-hmm.
She comes to a goat.
Yes.
She has a confrontation, we'll say, with the goat. Leaves. Finds them as they're leaving the house. Why does the goat scene exist?
Because they didn't know how to write May out of that telephone scene. They're like, just, I don't know, have her fucking lose him for 2 seconds so that we can have a serious scene with the big sister and then she'll show up later.
I mean,
I guarantee that's why it exists.
in some way, it's foreshadowing, right? It also has.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just thought that. But why goat?
Because goats are scary.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I absolutely agree now, 100% that it was just foreshadowing. But I built this hill and I'm standing on it, so now I got to stand here for a bit longer. Why the goat?
Well, think about it. As a kid, something you don't understand is scary as shit. And to her, she's probably never seen a goat because she's from the city. So she's like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? So to us, it looks scary. But in reality, it's probably just like a little tiny goat that's like, can I have a little bit of your corn?
I mean,
And if she hadn't, think about it, if she hadn't met that goat, she would have just kept going and gotten lost then. That's why the goat, so that she can get lost later.
yeah, but why not like a goose? Because I feel like geese are far scarier than goats are as far
Don't
as
talk
animals
shit about
beginning with
goose.
G.
But a geese wouldn't eat the corn.
Yeah, geese would just try to eat her. She would have died if a goose showed up.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
The goat is symbolizing something that could destroy the gift that she wants to give to her mother.
She's like, no, this is my corn. Like, I think that's what she says in the dub. She's like, my corn, bad goat or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's what she's worried about. She's not worried about the goat attacking her. She's worried about it taking the thing that she wants to give to her mom.
Oh man. Okay, so this is a bit of a side thing, which is fine because this is a stupid bit about a goat. I laughed so hard when she was just doing her little, when it was just her in the backyard running around picking flowers and stuff, and she's just running around. She picked up that bucket and it had a hole in it. And the dub, she just picks it up and she's like, haha, stupid bucket, and then tosses it. And that's just the funniest thing to me.
That's
I
why
don't
I'm
know
telling
why.
you the dubs are so much better, because in the sub, she just goes, this bucket has no bottom. It's like, thanks. I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
know.
after that I figured like, oh, in the sub they must have said like, oh, look at this bucket that has no bucket. But she runs over, picks it up, stupid bucket, and tosses it. No,
Like-
oh, that's right. She says this is a stupid bucket.
I mean, let's
You
be
know.
honest. We do that all the time. Like, you stub your foot into something, you're gonna yell, like some insults. You're gonna insult, that chair's mother. You're gonna
The chair's mother being the manufacturer.
Zach.
If somebody hands me a tool and that tool is broken in a way that is specifically contradicting to its design, I will make a derogatory comment about it, relating it to a person.
It had one job, and it failed.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, does anyone have any last?
Well, I
Like-
think we should do a thing each episode where I know this is like the most like generic thing we could do, but we should rank the film. And right now, since we've only watched one, it would be Totoro.
It's
and
number
then
one.
and then
best
next
and
time,
number one
since Grave of the
worst.
Fireflies is definitely going to be better, it would be then Grave of the Fireflies, Totoro, and then next time we just keep building our list, and then by the end of it, we'll have a arranged list.
I would make the argument for that thing, but for genre instead, because it's very difficult to compare a comedy and a drama and be like, well, this makes me cry more than this makes me laugh. So,
Well, it could also just be like personal taste, which movie you thought was better.
And this list is based solely on like them being Ghibli films.
Yes, it'll just be Ghibli films. And then by the end of it, we'll have what is it, like 22, 24 films? We'll have a full list
actually
of
not
all the
sure.
films, and they will be ranked from our favorite to least.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Solomon? You think?
I mean, I was thinking about something similar to that beforehand, just because it's helpful to be able to,
Yeah.
because clearly some Ghibli films are not the equals of others.
Oh, they're definitely not. But I'm just curious to see where Totoro is going to land at the end.
I'm pretty sure we're all thinking about the same film that's going to be somewhere near the bottom.
I wonder what that could be and what famous fantasy series it draws from.
We'll see when we get there. I'm trying to actually make a text document. Wait, why the hell am I making a text document? We've only seen one film so far.
I think I'm going to rank this one number one. It's
It is the best and it is the worst movie that we've
Yeah.
watched so far.
Well,
Yeah.
you see, I'm putting it right in the middle. I'm putting Totoro right in the middle.
I feel like it is going to be probably in the middle or towards the bottom of my list because I haven't seen every single film and I haven't seen a lot of the films in a long time. So I have no idea where this film's going to end up. Maybe this is my favorite Ghibli film. I'm just going to hate every other movie that comes after.
I am pretty sure it's not going to take us long till we have something higher up than Totoro.
Grave of the
But
Fireflies.
I'm going to make a prediction here that Totoro's probably going to be on the higher end of my list.
Okay.
I mean, I would say the same thing. It's got to be, I think, top 10.
My prediction will probably be, well, just mid tier. It'll be in the middle of the list.
The mid-tier fighter.
Yeah, mid tier fighter. It's good. I'll show it to my kids, but I'm not watching it as much as Spirited Away.
I was just about to wrap this up, but like, here's the thing: is like, if you were going to someone who's never seen a Ghibli film, would you give them Totoro to start them off?
Well, it depends on their age.
Yeah.
Because Totoro, as an adult, if I hadn't already seen this and I didn't know where it was going, I would have turned this movie off in the first 20 minutes. Because it's a very slow. You have to be enveloped in the style of movie. But if they're a kid, they don't fucking care. It's moving pictures on a screen. They'll watch it and they'll love it. So if it's a kid, Totoro. If it's an adult, probably like Mononoke or Spirited Away.
And I actually did that as like a 14-year-old. I was like, this is boring me. I need something else.
You got to hit the person where they are in the stage of their life.
Yeah, but then I took a class on Russian cinema, and now I'm like, this movie is an hour and a half. What can they do in an hour and a half? It's such a short amount of time.
Honestly.
And the answer is, they don't do anything in that.
They don't do anything.
You can't rush your movie if there's no movie to rush. So regardless, next movie is Grave of the Fireflies. So if anyone's listening to this, give that a watch, and then the next episode of the podcast, we'll probably very solemnly talk about a very depressing movie that came before this.
Our voices are going to be a lot deeper, just moisture ridden from all the crying.
Yeah, no, this podcast started with us talking over each other. The next one's just going to be kind of like long pauses of silence.
So what was your favorite part of the movie? I didn't like any of it. I didn't want any of that to happen.
Music was okay. I kind of cry when I listen to it now.
Okay. Does anybody want to plug anything before we sign off?
Yes. Okay. We need. Hello. I am Harley.
That is
I have a Twitter at Harley Wolf. I wish it was Wolf, but some 12-year-old has that name. So it's at Harley WOOL. I have a YouTube channel at Harley Silver Wolf. And I have another YouTube channel called Final Every Fantasy, where I am trying to play every Final Fantasy. That's pretty much it.
That's everything.
I want to get into streaming. I haven't started yet, so.
I was gonna get into streaming. Don't do the things I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna steal your thunder.
I guess my one thing to plug is my YouTube channel, which is very dead after it's called Sky Talk. And no, I didn't just sneeze. It's SKIATOK. Don't subscribe. You won't like any of the content, mostly because I don't post anything. But yeah, that's my thing.
Don't subscribe, but do go look at it.
Go look at it, but don't subscribe because you're not going to get
don't
anything.
touch.
Look, but don't touch.
Look, but don't touch.
Don't comment.
Okay. Wait, someone.
I have some things in the work, but nothing official, and I need a Twitter account that I just don't use for retweets in the hopes of winning contests.
Perfect.
But
Somebody's got to send Hank mail to you somehow.
look me up. My name is Solomon, and that's all you're getting out of me.
Cool.
He's actually very
Yeah.
famous. You'll find him instantly.
Exactly.
No, he's actually three celebrities, all of
Mhm.
which
I
have never been in the same place at the same time. So,
I'm three children in a trench coat.
all right, how do we?
Just
End?
end
I'm
it.
just gonna end up. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.